This is the field of 68. I'm Vince Wolfram.
I'm JoJo CAVANAGH in Auburn, Alabama. And this
is Straight Out the Jungle. Welcome back to Straight Out the Jungle. My name is Vince Wolfram.
And I'm JoJo CAVANAGH.
And tonight, number one Auburn matched its best 20-game start in school history as Johni Broome scored 20 of his 26 big dog buckets in the second half to sink the LSU Tiger ship that was hoping to land on Upset Island this evening. 87-74, the final, upping Auburn's win streak to 12 straight games. And JoJo, when we hopped on, you described this game perfectly. It was kind of a weird one.
Yeah, I just couldn't put my finger on it. I think to describe it perfectly, you're going to talk about that opening possession in a second, but that kind of was this feeling for me throughout the entire game. You kind of just felt like LSU was always coming back, especially when Jordan Sears just kind of went on that little tangent, but just throughout the entire game. And even Johni Broome scoring 26 points, he still isn't 100%, and he still, missed a lot of shots. So that's just kind of another thing. But just throughout this entire game, I described it to you as meh. I don't know why. It wasn't that
Just
we
meh.
played meh. It was just such a weird feeling while I was watching this game. I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, and it was very meh, but two things were for certain, and it's that Auburn set season bests, season highs in two big categories: steals on defense, which you'll talk about in a second, and rebounding, which I'll get to now. And how the game started, I don't know that it could get more of a frenzy. I know I tweeted out, my brain hurts after watching the first 3 minutes of this Auburn game. Listen to this. This is how the game started. Missed shot, Dylan Cardwell rebound. Johni Broome missed layup. Johni Broome rebounds his miss. Damian Collins gets a block. Johni Broome misses a layup again. Johni Broome rebounds his missed layup again. Chad Baker-Mazara misses a three-point shot. Johni Broome with the offensive rebound. Johni Broome misses a layup. Chad Baker-Mazara gets the rebound to Johni's missed layup. Denver Jones misses a jumper. Dylan Cardwell gets the rebound. Finds Miles Kelly for a three. Doesn't make it. LSU moves on to play on offense. But 6 offensive rebounds on one play to start the basketball game was quite the way to kick off the game. I know you and I were probably sitting on our screens like this.
Yeah, I tweeted out, I was like, what in the world am I watching? Like, it was, I couldn't, what in the world was I watching? It's exactly what I tweeted out, because I was just sitting at my TV just so confused. And I think every Auburn fan, even LSU fans, were like, what is this?
Yeah, it was like, what in the world is happening right now? And I guess that was the spark for the entire night, because Auburn finished with 25 total offensive rebounds on the day. Johni Broome would have had a double-double with just offensive rebounds alone, because he had 11. And then the rest of the team got in on the fun too. Dylan with 4. Chris Moore got in the game and had 4 big offensive rebounds. Tahad, the what did Chaney call him? He called him his little guy syndrome, but he's got a big personality. He got in there, got 2 big offensive rebounds, and then Miles, Chad, and Chaney each had 1. So it was a full glass cash in this one, because they were making their money at the boards, and 15 boards offensively in the first half alone is crazy. And there was a point in the game where they had more offensive rebounds than LSU had defensive rebounds. And there was a point in the game where they had more offensive rebounds than LSU had total rebounds. That is mind-knocking to me, that just to get that amount of rebounds without the other team even being able to get your missed shots. Like, that's what Auburn was doing. They were rebounding more of their own missed shots than they were LSU's shots. And Bruce said that after the game, because Johni had joked that he had another triple-double with the amount of missed shots that he had tonight. We'll talk about Johni in just a little bit, but Bruce said, like, he had 11 offensive rebounds and half of them were off of his own misses. I think he does that on purpose, which is funny from Coach Pearl. But in the game like this, it was true. Total rebounds, they had 24 in the first, 23 in the second. And the difference in how Auburn capitalized on the opportunities that these offensive rebounds presented changed from the first half to the second half. The first half, I think it was more frustrating. And I'm sure the Auburn faithful listening right now would say the same thing. In the first half, Auburn, 15 rebounds, like I've mentioned. They just had 2 second chance points. So they had 15 opportunities to score off of offensive rebounds and only scored 1 time. They had 2 points off of those 15 rebounds. Now, second half, after I'm sure they were gotten into pretty good at the halftime about making sure you make those chances matter. In the second, Auburn had 10 offensive rebounds, 5 less than the first, but had 18 second chance points. Talk about that turnaround and really, really making a difference and making those extra effort plays, getting offensive rebounds matter on the scoreboard.
Yeah, 3 minutes into the game, Auburn had 9 offensive rebounds. Granted, it was the first play that had 6, but then that was when LSU had 1. So it was just from that first play on, it was kind of just mind blowing how many boards Auburn got. And Bruce Pearl always talks about you win the boards, you win the game. And in this game, it almost seemed that that couldn't be a possibility because of how many missed shots Auburn had. Like you said, Johni Broome joked he had another triple double because he missed his shots, even though he was getting his own offensive rebounds. So that's definitely something to look at, but it is definitely a good sign that Auburn had 25 offensive rebound. I mean, that's just putting in the effort. And I know you talked about last episode, Chaney Johnson getting in there and getting those offensive rebounds. And you saw that tonight. He's way more aggressive now, getting rebounds and boxing other players out than he was at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and I think even with rebounding and offensive rebounding comes foul opportunities. I thought Auburn was decent from the line tonight, especially Johni. I know I said we'll talk about him later, but he really stepped up tonight. He was 6 for 7 from the free throw line. It was great to see him knock down shots from the charity stripe. Now, there's some other guys too. Denver Jones was perfect. Chad Baker-Mazara missed a technical and one other, but overall, I mean, the offensive rebounding produced just so much offense for this Tigers team tonight. And that wasn't the only way that points were scored, points were generated, because the defense, I thought too, was strangling LSU.
Yeah, I do want to bring up LSU is the best free throw team in the SEC. They're 84% at the line, but Cam Carter went 8 for 12 and they missed 8 free throws. So that was definitely a big point for LSU. It's usually one of the best free throw shooters in the SEC. So that was kind of, I guess, a good thing for Auburn because they were getting to the line quite a bit. But I want to talk about defense. So in the first half alone, Auburn forced 15 turnovers. That is absolutely insane. And they had 15 points off of those turnovers. At the end of the game, those 20 turnovers then went into 22 points. But just capitalizing, first off, having the effort of forcing turnovers and then capitalize over them is huge. We saw that a couple times during special teams play. The announcers were kind of honing in on it the whole way. Just the way Auburn is able to put pressure on inbounds pass. And it happened quite a few times where they were able to get that, and that led to a bucket. So just shout out to Maddox Jeffries, who is one of the best special teams coordinators in all of the SEC. I know when he played, Bruce Pearl said last Saturday against Tennessee, he kind of picked out that entire play that Tennessee was going to run for that last play to cover Zakai Ziegler shooting that 3. But then also steals. So Auburn had 11 steals in the first half, ended up with 15 steals, which is Auburn's season high in steals. And kind of everyone joined in on it. 4 steals from Denver Jones, which coming from against Tennessee, Denver Jones having 4 turnovers, translating that into this game against LSU having 4 steals. That is huge. We'll talk about later, but just Denver Jones way better on the offensive side tonight. Still kind of looking for more there, but just his defense just continually to get better. Just always one of the best defenders on the floor when he's there. But Chad Miles had 3 steals. Dylan Cardwell and Chaney Johnson had 2. Kind of everyone made their impact. And for a team that is very high on blocks, like we had that block party game, Auburn had 2 blocks before halftime and then ended with 4. So it kind of was Auburn was forcing turnovers and making plays on defense, but it came from like a different avenue tonight where it was 15 steals to 4 blocks.
There's any time that you get multiple guys with over 2 steals, that means it's been a pesky night on defense. And there was plenty of moments during the game where Auburn's defense really stepped up. I know we talked about Denver Jones had the 4 steals tonight. His on-ball pressure tonight caused LSU so many issues. They were struggling to get their offense going. Like we said, a lot of their points came sort of either off sporadic things or the ball ended up in their hands in a good spot. They weren't able to run a lot of great offense. And I think that was primarily because of Denver Jones. And there was also a time late in the second half when Sears had started to catch fire, and you were worried that Auburn was going to have one of those moments where they let up that lead in the second half and they don't finish the half like they should. But 6-minute mark defense, it saved a play that kept the game from being cut to 6 and instead extended the lead to 10. It was Turtle, actually, Jaheim Hudson. When he got in the game, he forced a big man off the block under the basket, forced him to throw the ball out to the top of the key at the perimeter. Denver Jones took no time, ripped the ball right away from him, goes with about 6 seconds left on the shot clock, takes the rock, fast break, passes the turtle, goes for the dunk, 74-64 at that time. And at that point, that was what shut LSU out of the game. They had a little bit of momentum there. There was a glimpse of hope for the Tigers in yellow and purple, but it wasn't enough after that because the defense was just so tough, and they couldn't really run what they wanted to run, couldn't get into the stuff as I'm sure they hoped that they would.
I think the crazy part is for me, there were only 4 players who played tonight that did not have a steal. JP Pegues, Chris Moore, Tahad Pettiford, and Jaheim Hudson. But the crazy part to me was that Auburn had 15 steals and Tahad Pettiford didn't get one. He's usually on the board with steals. So that just shows how Auburn defensively has improved. And granted, Tahad Pettiford didn't get any, but we still had 15. That wasn't needed. So that kind of spoke out to me a lot is 15 steals, and Tahad Pettiford, who is one of your leading scorers, his defense has improved greatly over the season. Who's a point guard? Point guards are known to get steals, especially when him and Denver are guarding other point guards. So that kind of spoke out to me too, that Auburn still had 15 steals with Tahad Pettiford not having one.
Yeah, and you might see the final score of this game too, 87-74, and think, wow, LSU scored a lot of points. Like that 74 is a good amount of points, especially for the SEC that we've known to be as tough as it is this year. But LSU is actually the worst shooting team from three in the entire SEC. They were making shots tonight. We got a good fight out of LSU. They were 7 from 15 from deep against Auburn at a point in this game. And you were wondering, oh my gosh, where has this LSU team been all year? So whether or not you think that Auburn got the best LSU team, I would argue that they got a team that was pretty effective on offense compared to their usual production value and how much they actually are able to score on the court. And I don't think it was any fault of Auburn's defense letting up 7 for 15 from three. More as it was LSU was making tough shots. We got a pretty good fight out of LSU today and still managed with senior leadership and guys stepping up both on offense and defense when needed. I think that's what really helped put Auburn over the top.
Yeah, there were a couple players on LSU who Bailey, for one of them, is usually a 24% three-point shooter. He made a three. And then also Collins was 2 for 14 from the three-point line coming into this game, and he made a three. So there were guys that just do not usually make threes that were making threes. And kind of coming into this game, if LSU wanted to upset Auburn, they had to make three-point shots. So there were a couple points in this game, especially when Jordan Sears kind of got on fire, that it was like, okay, Auburn kind of needs to hone down, make sure to get these guys outside the arc and cover them. But definitely there were a couple of guys who usually don't make threes that made threes.
Yeah, and I think too, just at the very beginning of the game, when Auburn got down a little bit in those first couple of minutes where we talked about the offensive rebounds, Auburn couldn't put the ball in the basket, is what it felt like. They were gritting their teeth, trying to just get the ball, see the ball go through the net. And it was low odds at that point. We just weren't, Auburn was not making shots. And this is where I want to jump into the play of Johni Broome, because his first half was not the prom queen. It was not. And he was 2 for 9 from the field in the first 10 minutes of this game. For Johni, that's rare. If he gets to his spots and he's on the block and goes to that left hook or goes to the pump fake and the step through, he's making the majority of those shots. So for him to be off, and they needed to see a guy step up. And I think Chad Baker-Mazara and Miles certainly showed upperclassmen leadership in stepping up. But Broome's rebounding was great in the first half. He couldn't put the ball in the basket. That's just what it was. But that senior leadership from Johni, I thought, was extra evident in the second half. First half, he was 3 for 14. Second half, 7 for 9, had 20 points. 20 of his 26 came in the second half. I just thought he was a force. LSU talked about it in their postgame, and Johni Broome was the difference. He was the reason that Auburn separated themselves, not only on the scoreboard, but just in the flow of the game as well. I think his flow and the way Johni plays the game disrupted a lot of things that LSU wanted to do, especially Collins. Look at him as a defender. He's a tall, 7-foot, lanky guy. Put Johni Broome on him, 2 dribbles and a shoulder, and he's at the basket. That's what kind of day it was for Johni Broome. He let him out the doghouse, and he went to work.
26 points, 16 rebounds, 3 blocks, 1 steal. I mean, and in a way, there was a couple of points where you saw Johni Broome limping and he would go down and grab his ankle. He did that a couple of times before at the free throw line. So he's not 100%. And he had a triple double because he missed a couple shots. So the fact that this is a 26-point game, 16 rebound point game when Johni Broome is one not healthy and he's missing shots, and in a way, you don't feel as if he's like obviously when he has the ball, it's Johni Broome, National Player of the Year candidate. He's dominating, but this is a 26 performance where the whole it's not the Johni Broome game. Auburn has so many other players that step up: Chad Baker-Mazara, Miles Kelly, Tahad Pettiford, Chaney Johnson. There are so many other players that it's just not the Johni Broome show. So I don't know how this guy is not. I know Cooper Flagg is in discussion too for National Player of the Year, but the fact that you have 26 points and 16 rebounds when you were limping, holding your ankle, and you were still not, that's still not, we know that there's more to Johni Broome. Just, we don't win Tennessee without Johni Broome, and we could maybe not win LSU without Johni Broome. So he's just a difference maker. He makes this Auburn team so, so, so much better, and it is amazing to watch.
Yeah, and I would like to say he made it look easy tonight, but Auburn was 14 of 33 on layups tonight. And yes, Johni Broome had 26 points. He also missed 13 shots. So Johni Broome has faults too, but 26 points is a lot. He did a lot of work getting to the free throw line. I thought, wow, I think there is room for cleanup in the game Johni had tonight. A lot of his shots, especially in the first quarter, I felt at least, I know you can tell me what you think on this too. I think a lot of them are forced. He would get offensive rebounds and he would be rushed and feel forced to put it up. And a lot of them just spiked off the glass or went off the side of the rim. They weren't the usual pace that Johni plays, and it wasn't with the usual control that Johni has on the basketball game. He would get a rebound and it would be quick. He would go quick up, which is rare. I feel like he's a guy who likes to come down, pump fake a couple of times, try to get a defender loose, and then go up and score just because it's a higher percentage shot. So I think if I'm Johni Broome and I walk away from this game, yes, I had 26 points. It was not pretty. In fact, it was pretty ugly. And we need, as a front court, this is probably what he's telling Chaney Johnson and Dylan. One, you need to stay out of foul trouble. Two, we really have to make the bunnies. That's something Chaney talked to us about too. Making the bunny shots, the ones that are right there. There was plenty of points left on the board tonight because of missed layups, because of easy shots missed in the paint. So I'm sure that's the message from the guys coaching the front court tonight. But I also think that's a message from their leader, Johni Broome, to the rest of the group.
Yeah, Bruce Pearl spoke and he said, again, Johni Broome, he said it, Bruce Pearl said it against Tennessee. Johni Broome said it tonight that he had a triple double because he missed so many shots. And I think it has to do with his health. I just don't think his confidence is not 100%. And I think that is because he is still hurt in a way, because besides 26 points and a double double, but he is still injured. Like, we can't forget that fact. He, a couple times, like I said, is holding his ankle. He is limping, but there is a point where if we could get Johni to find like that the last play against Tennessee where he misses a layup and quickly finds Miles Kelly, instead of holding offense, like Bruce Pearl said, he jokingly was like, I think he gets his own offensive rebounds on purpose to make that basket. But if there is a way to just hone it in for one more second, either do the pump fake or just find another player, Auburn makes so many more shots. Because sometimes, I mean, granted, a lot of them were easy bunnies, like you like to say, but sometimes just the shot isn't there. And yes, you are Johni Broome. Most of the time, he makes those tough shots with two defenders on him, but sometimes that isn't the case.
Yeah, and our friend Chaney Johnson mentioned to us in our interview, it's hard when the offense isn't working to not force shots. It's something he struggled with against Georgia. I think Johni had a little bit of that tonight. While 26 points looks great on paper, watch the game, it wasn't all of that. And Bruce said in his postgame, we have to be way sharper. We can't keep missing that many shots around the basket. And that's the truth. And I can only imagine the film session with Bruce and the assistant coaches watching this one back, realizing how many easy points that were left on the board. Very easily, this could have been a 20-plus point victory. 14 of 33 layups is very bad. It's very bad. I'll just say it's not good. And for an Auburn team that's number one in the country to escape 13-point win, leaving less than 20 layups on the board is a little astonishing.
Yeah, but definitely. So I spoke about Tennessee, how Auburn, everyone knows Auburn's guards, the room is so deep. But first half against Tennessee, we had Miles Kelly, who was it? Denver Jones and Tahad Pettiford, who were 0 for 5. Chad Baker-Mazara was 0 for 4. But coming into halftime, Miles Kelly, leading scorer, 10 points at a halftime. Chad Baker-Mazara had 9 points. Tahad Pettiford had 6 points. Denver Jones had 4. That is huge. Coming off a game with all four of those guys, they went 0 for 19 before halftime against Tennessee. So having then come in and all of them at least have 2 buckets is huge. Miles Kelly was 4 for 7. Chad Baker-Mazar was 3 for 9. Todd Pettiford 3 for 6. Denver Jones 2 for 4. So yes, they're most definitely still missing some shots, but for them to come in after going 0 for 19 against Tennessee, all of them coming in and making an impact when Johni Broome only had 6 points at halftime. That is why, like I said, there are other players surrounding him that are making an impact. And that was what we were missing against Tennessee. It was only, like I said, who made points in the paint was Chaney Johnson, Dylan Cardwell, and Johni Broome. But all four of these guys, after having such a bad start against Tennessee, were able to put points on the board against LSU.
Yeah, and it was great to see Auburn respond, I think, to their opening series of offense because, I mean, they were 3 for 13 through the first 5 minutes, and 2 of those 3 were from Miles Kelly. In this game, Auburn shot 80 field goals attempts, which is the most they've taken since taking 80 shots at Arkansas in February of 2022. Like that, 80 shots is a lot. And they struggled at the beginning, but I'm comfortable with how they responded because it did come from a lot of different avenues, like you mentioned. Like those guys, they had an outpouring by the end. To have almost 5 guys in double figures at the end, that's a great thing. Knowing that multiple guys can step up. Not that we didn't know that already, but when nobody really has it going, it wasn't a certain guy's game tonight on the floor. In the stat sheet, obviously, it looks like it was a Johni Broome game. If you watch the game, there wasn't like, you can give it to Johni now. He's going to go and get a bucket. It wasn't that kind of Broome performance. But it was comforting to see that not only does Johni step up and make free throws when he needs to and get rebounds like he did tonight, but that the offense as a whole can come together and score some points if need be.
Yeah, then coming into the second half, 4 of those guys, Denver Jones was the only one not in double figures, but he had 9 points. Jahad had 10, CBM had 11, and Miles had 13. So all of those guys making their impact. Miles Kelly's double figured 5 of his last 6 games. The last game not in double figures, Tennessee, in which he had the game-winning 3. So Miles Kelly, one of the best three-point shooters in the SEC, but his impact with Johni Broome maybe not scoring as well. Chad Baker-Mazar, again, not having the best night on the floor, but there was a couple crucial points where he missed his own shot, got the steal, and then made a bucket. Another steal led to that Denver Jones alley-oop. He had his career high in assists, 7 assists. He had 6 assists for a while. I think he had that 3 games this season. So coming in and, again, making an impact in different ways. Tahad, I think there was a really crucial point where Chaney Johnson missed a shot. Dylan had an offensive rebound. Tahad Pettiford made that 3. That was such a crucial point because that was when LSU had a 5-point lead and you felt like LSU was coming back into this game. Tahad Pettiford, again, silencing the crowd. So all of these guys, while it may not look, a lot of them did have double figures. So of course they did have great games, but it just, they're making impacts in different ways.
Yeah, and I think that point that you mentioned too, when Chaney had the miss, Dylan got the offensive rebound and kicked to Tahad, that was another point where LSU was closing the gap. And it was a point where that 4-point swing really changed things. And Tahad, he's shooting the lights out. He's the best 3-point shooter amongst SEC freshmen at 42% so far. I think you're going to see him continue to grow, continue to step up in his role, make shots when need be. And what I love about his game is that he's a creator. Whenever he gets in the game, he's different from Miles. Choose Miles as an example. Miles loves to come off screens. He loves to catch and shoot in his rhythm, in his motion. Tahad's a dribbler. He likes to get to his spots, hit his step back that he told us that he loves to get to that mid-range and pull up because his elevation on his jump shot is just so high. But I love tonight to see Tahad and Denver, how they combated each other. Earlier in the game, it wasn't going for Denver. It just wasn't. He got subbed out 3 minutes into the game for Tahad. Tahad came in, made some impact defensively while it didn't end up in steals. He had some tip passes. He had times where he would get in the passing lanes and force LSU's offense more towards half court, which is exactly what you want. But then Denver Jones, second half. The best play of the game for him was starting the half with a 3-pointer. I thought that was a huge thing for him, especially that mental game. Coming off a tough game, or I'm sure he's hearing it from Tennessee people, from a nationally televised game. You go 0 for 8, you're going to hear something. So for Denver to come in that second half, knock down that 3 to start the half, and he had plenty of other moments in the second half as well where he had the dunk. He had other moments where he was getting rebounds, where he was blocking shots. He was in the mix and was making a positive impact on the floor. I thought that was huge, not only for Denver Jones's confidence, but Denver Jones going forward. His plus minus was 17 tonight. That's a huge positive impact on the game itself, and he did it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I was saying it last week in our Tennessee recap. I was looking for that Denver Jones comeback game.
Mhm.
You were too. And in a way, I still think that there is a game where Denver Jones just completely pops off. But
Yep.
this was such an improvement offensively from the Tennessee game. Like we said, defensively, Denver Jones, one of the best defensive guards in the SEC. And also to go from 4 turnovers against Tennessee to 4 steals against LSU, that should not go unnoticed. So I'm excited to see that game when Denver Jones completely pops off, but just what an improvement from just not having a great game going 0 for 8 against Tennessee.
Yeah, and 3 for 9 is an improvement, is a great sign, right? You go for 8, 3 shots, we'll take those. That's how Denver Jones has to think, I think, going forward. He has to be positive about his impacts on the games because, I mean, the plus minus tells it all. His impact is positive. You might have missed those 6 shots, but he knows shooters keep shooting. And if it wasn't the case, Bruce would say that, and he is not going to. So for Denver Jones, I think the message is keep playing how you're playing. Defensively, you are such a key for this team. And offensively, there's so much offense. If you can bring offense, fantastic. And even if you don't you worry. There's 6 other guys who can do that. And a guy that I was surprised by tonight, not even surprised by, but more so I was excited by, that came off the floor with so much energy, was Jaheim Hudson. I think he brought fantastic energy off the bench in tonight's game. He got a bucket with the shot clock winding down. And then on the very next play, helped Chad get a steal around half court, got it, assisted Chad, dunk, momentum swinger. That's what Jaheim Hudson, he came in and just made an emotional difference. He had moments in the second half too with the same sort of thing. And I just thought he was impressive. I mean, he had stats in every category. I felt like he had 2 points in the first, 5 in the second, played the normal amount of minutes. He averages, 8 minutes a game? He played 9 tonight, but he was perfect from the floor, had a couple of rebounds. I thought he was great. A great piece that I didn't expect, especially with Johni maybe not scoring the ball as he would have liked in the first half. I thought that was a breath of fresh air. Chaney Johnson in foul trouble. You needed somebody to step up. Dylan had a fine game. It wasn't his best game that he's ever played in the orange and blue, but I thought Jaheim Hudson really, really stepped in. And I don't want to say I was pleasantly surprised because we've seen Jaheim Hudson do this, but it was a great moment for him to step in and do what he does to help this team.
Yeah, he was needed with Johni Broome only scoring 6 in the first half. He came in, but then also in the second half, Chaney Johnson ends up fouling out with 5 fouls. Dylan Cardwell had 4 fouls. So playing 9 minutes, but when he was at his 7 minute mark, he had 7 points in 7 minutes. So that coming from Jaheim Hudson is huge. He made a 3, which was awesome. So the 2 bigs coming off the bench, Chaney Johnson and Jaheim Hudson, both made 3s. And Bruce Pearl spoke out about it. He said, when our 4 men start making those shots, what we do offensively is going to look even better. And I spoke about this last week after the Tennessee game. Bruce Pearl spoke out and said about Chaney Johnson, how he wants to develop his game a little bit more regarding 3-point shooting. Now, when Chaney Johnson starts making those 3s, that's going to be great for Auburn, and he needs that going forward in SEC play. Well, he got that tonight. Chaney Johnson made 2 3s. He was perfect from the 3-point line. Yes, it's only 2 3s, but that is huge. Auburn had 8 3s on the night, and 3 of them came from your big men off the bench. So Bruce Pearl spoke about that after the Tennessee game, and he spoke it into existence because those were big time buckets for those guys.
And I know Bruce loved to see those big men step back and start to shoot the 3 too. We've been to practice. We've seen these guys. They are shot makers. Jaheim Hudson, especially, I love to see. I mean, this guy plays 8, 9 minutes a game. He came in and confidently shot a 3 with the defender backing off him, daring him to shoot. To see that confidence, he knows his coach trusts him to make it. And sure enough, nylon, when he shoots it, it was cash money. I love to see it from Turtle. How about Turtle tonight? Look at that. I love it.
I loved the way Turtle played tonight. And I spoke about how if Chaney Johnson starts shooting 3s, the ceiling for Auburn gets even higher. Jaheim Hudson can come in and in the minutes he plays, get 7 points in 7 minutes. That the ceiling goes past the universe. Like that is huge.
Yeah, it really is. I thought the bigs played great tonight. And another thing I wanted to note, Chad Baker-Mazar in the first half caught a mean elbow to the stomach, which I know we've been on the opposite side of that before. But he just tweeted, that wasn't a flagrant 2? Is that crazy? But after that, I noticed there was a spark in Chad. We talked about his numbers already, so you guys know what he did in Pete Maravich Coliseum in Baton Rouge. But I thought that was a little bit of a fire starter for Chad tonight, because after that he started scoring, he was attacking the basket, and I don't care what his field goal percentage is. He's one of those guys that can make the most out of garbage plays. And what I mean by that is when a play goes wrong, when the play for Johni Broome, where they're going east and west and they're doing their flex actions trying to get him the ball, when that doesn't go as planned and Chad Baker-Mazara has the ball on the wing, I'm a confident fellow watching that game. I think Chad Baker-Mazara can score on so many levels. He can make threes. He can make bad threes. He can shoot bad threes, and he can make bad threes. Those step backs from the corner, we see those a good bit. He can make them, though. So there's a confidence level there that I appreciate. The fact that he was 3 for 12 tonight, we don't love that because we want to see Chad be hot. We want to see him be in mode. But I love when Chad Baker-Mazara is an offensive starter, and when he gets the ball and he drives, and when he gets the ball and he turns into a guy he's a flexor in the middle. He can get the ball, he can drive, he can pull up in the mid range. He'll get a 4-point play like he did tonight. He made the 3 and the foul for the 100th time this season. The guy's a magician. I just love seeing him be confident on the floor, no matter how it's going. And I think that elbow tonight, I think really, really was the battery that helped to charge up Chad Baker-Mazara.
For both teams, it positively impact Auburn, negative for LSU. After that flagrant one, which Chad was shocked it wasn't a flagrant two, on Cam Carter, it was a major switch for both teams. LSU didn't score for 3 minutes after that, and Auburn went on a 15-2 run. I think that even got up to 17, maybe even higher to 2 run. So just a play like that, Auburn taking charge after that, and then LSU kind of falling back. So that kind of was definitely that spark in the first half that led Auburn to go into halftime with a lead and then eventually have such a lead, a 13-point win.
But I think we should incorporate this into our show more. We did the toasts on the After Dark. I think my toast to this game was Chris Moore. Last game, he got hurt, people. He got a neck contusion, a concussion. I don't know what it was. Ran into his own teammate, ran his head into his ribs. Didn't look all that pretty. Chris Moore tonight, I thought he looked great. While he did have a couple of fouls that I don't think were necessarily great calls, he made such a difference. I don't care that he didn't score. He didn't need to shoot any shots. He still had 5 rebounds. I mean, he came in for 10 minutes and got 5 rebounds. Mind you, Chris Moore is not 6'10". Chris Moore is maybe 6'5", 6'6", would you say? He's not the biggest, tallest, strongest guy in the arena, although he is part of the strong gang, folks. He is not Dylan Cardwell. He's just not as big or strong as somebody like that. So for him to come in, body his way in, and do what Chris Moore does and get utility stats, get utility points to help Auburn succeed in different ways. Chris Moore, you got my money tonight, my friend.
I'm going to do an Auburn pick and an LSU pick. So right. Auburn pick, I'm giving it to Jaheim Hudson. I think, yes, he played 9 minutes, but he had 7 points in 7 minutes. And if he can keep making threes, like I said, the ceiling for Auburn just gets higher. But Cam Carter, I said this to you, and then I kind of took it back. I was like, I wish Cam Carter wasn't on LSU. I kind of wish he was on a contender. And Vince was like, no, you don't. That would make a contender better. So yes, that is true. But I love watching Cam Carter play. He's aggressive. He had 24 points, and kind of similar to Johni Broome. It wasn't like the Cam Carter show, but in a way, it is the Johni Broome show. It is the Cam Carter show. I don't even know how to describe it, but I loved watching him play. We don't get to play LSU. Maybe we will in the tournament, but then I won't be cheering for him then, obviously. But I'm going to give my toast of the night to Turtle and Cam Carter. I think Cam Carter is a beast.
Yeah, two good toasts there. I love that. I think we should start to incorporate that into most, because I like that little touch. It adds some extra fun. Shows what we like in the players, and what we like is a road trip, because Auburn's road trip continues as they travel to Oxford, Mississippi. The number 23 ranked Ole Miss Rebels await them on Saturday, February 1st at 1 p.m. Now, right now, the ESPN stat tracker has Auburn at a 70% chance to win, but as we know all too well, it's the SEC, so stats literally don't matter. So Ole Miss, their best player right now is Sean Padula. He's leading the team in scoring with just over 14 points a game. He has scored in double figures in his last 6. So this is a guy who's got the hot hand. We're averaging around 3 rebounds and 3 assists a game. He's a guy that affects the game in plenty more ways than one. And I'm sure he's a 6'1", buck 95 pounds kind of player. So I'm sure that'll be a matchup for old Deuce Jones to have Adam in Oxford. So I'm looking forward to that matchup. A highly efficient offensive player going up against Denver Jones, who I think is still, to this point, the best defending guard in college basketball.
Ole Miss is kind of not a sleeper team. They are ranked 23, but when we talked to Terrence Oglesby at Media Day, he said Ole Miss was kind of his sleeper pick for the SEC. They're 15-5. They're 6 in the SEC right now. They are on a 3-game losing streak, and they are currently losing to Texas right now with around 9 minutes left. So you guys will have the answer to that when this is posted, but kind of still on a 3-game losing streak, could possibly be before. Vince said it before, that could either lead to Auburn blowing out Ole Miss, or that could lead to Ole Miss snapping that streak and having a really good game. I mean, this Ole Miss team beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. That is not an easy thing to do with Mark Sears and just the way that whole team is playing. And like I said, they have 5 losses. Auburn has beat 4 of those teams. So Ole Miss has lost to Purdue, Memphis, Mizzou, Mississippi State, but then their 5th loss that Auburn has yet to play, which we will later on this season, is Texas A&M. And then also there's the added factor, Wes Flanagan. So he was an assistant coach with Bruce Pearl at Auburn for 5 years, played at Auburn, and then left for Ole Miss. So he definitely knows the way Bruce Pearl coaches. He coached some of these guys. He coached Johni. He coached Dylan Cardwell, Chris Moore. So he knows the way some of these guys play. He knows the way some of them defend. He's worked with Mike Burgomaster. He's worked with Stephen Pearl. Same thing goes for Ole Miss. Bruce Pearl knows the way Wes Flanagan thinks. So that's kind of, I think that adds a little bit of fun to this game, as I think you're going to see some new plays and some new tricks because these coaches know each other after working together for so long.
I don't care that Ole Miss has lost as many games as they have in a row, because that's going to happen to every single SEC team at some point. Bruce has even said that. He's joked with us, yeah, when we lose, what are you going to say about us? That kind of thing is true. In the SEC, it's going to happen. But I think Ole Miss is a team that has sort of flown under the radar so far this season. Chris Beard, he has this team under control, and they're a tough squad. Like you mentioned, they played number 4 Alabama at a point and absolutely dismantled them. It was the worst game I saw from Alabama this whole season. I'm not saying that from an Auburn perspective. I just mean from a basketball analyst perspective. Malik Dia chewed them up. He had 23 points, 18 rebounds, a Johni Broome-esque stat line from Dia. They had 5 players in double figures. And what they did that surprised me was that they held Alabama to 25% shooting from behind the arc. Now, Alabama, one of the nation's highest 3-point shooting teams. I think at the time they were the nation's highest 3-point scoring team. They only managed 64 points. We were talking about how we thought LSU scoring 74 was an awful lot. Imagine Alabama scoring 64. That's the kind of defense Ole Miss has. I think it could be a tough environment too, because Ole Miss, it's similar to us, small town, but they've got some fire. So I think it's going to be a great test for Auburn, especially how they've played offensively as of late. I think that defense will challenge Auburn. Not saying Auburn can't win, because I think any team in the SEC can win any game on a given night, but I think it will be an awfully big test for the Tigers to go into Oxford.
I agree. And coming in as the number 1 team in the country, every single game you play, these teams just want to upset you and win even more. The fans want it more because it could lead to a court storm. Just beating the number 1 team in the country is such a massive thing that Auburn has such a huge target in their backs no matter what game they play. So like I said, Ole Miss is to come ready to play.
Yeah, and as Otega Owe on Kentucky said, it's like their Super Bowl. That's how it is when you play the number 1 team in the country. And for LSU tonight, they couldn't make it happen. Auburn beats LSU 87-74 in Baton Rouge. Auburn extends its winning streak. They're on fire. They hope to keep that fire lit and continuing heading into Oxford on Saturday at 1 p.m. JoJo, do you have anything else for this awesome episode of Straight Out the Jungle? When Auburn wins, it's a great night, so I'm sure you don't, but we love a win.
Auburn wins and the Knicks win on the same night. Give the Nuggets a 3-game losing streak, 10-point win. Jalen Brunson had 30 points. OG Anunoby had 5 threes. It was a good basketball night for me, so I'm happy.
And I'm right there with you, because my god-awful Philadelphia 76ers have won 4 straight. The lineup looks like a G League roster plus Tyrese Maxey, but they're making it happen. Things we love to see. We love when our pro sports teams win. And now we're going to go check out the rest of the college basketball games happen this evening. So it's a great night of hoops. every Tuesday, Wednesday night of the week is fantastic because it's filled with great matchups. But for this episode of Straight Out of the Jungle, make sure you lock in with us, comment, like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure you stay up and stay in tune with all things Auburn basketball, because we most certainly got it for you.
Yeah, we will have the recap of Ole Miss to you guys on Saturday. So for this episode of Straight Out the Jungle, I'm JoJo CAVANAGH.
And I'm Vince Wolfram. We'll see you guys next time. War Eagle.
War Eagle.